Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches Poetry. Today we're going to be revising William Blake's famous poem London. I'm going to take you through 5 of the most important quotations with helpful analysis of language structure and form. Be a great idea to have your flashcards ready, especially if you need to learn some of these quotes. Let's get started.
Okay, so our first quote is actually the first 2 lines of the poem. I wander through each chartered street near where the chartered Thames does flow. Right, let's start off by looking at the connotations of the verb wander. Okay, I wander, so no, it's present tense, and wander suggests a kind of sense of aimlessness, like he is free in this moment, which is brilliant because it completely juxtaposes this adjective chartered, which is repeated twice in these 2 lines. Chartered streets, chartered Thames. Chartered means mapped out. So each street is mapped out. So he, in contrast to this rigid mapping out of places, is free to wander around. And note there's another juxtaposition. Again, this control and freedom, because he's talking about where the Thames does flow, a verb that again is associated with freedom and nature. But notice once more that even the Thames is chartered. So this is about the whole idea of London being so controlled that even something that is natural has been bound in. Second quote, this is from the second stanza, quite a long one, but if you notice there's a whole lot of repetition going on, so it's quite easy to remember. In every cry of every man, in every infant's cry of fear, in every voice, in every ban, the man forged manacles I hear. We'll look at that afterwards. First things first, look at this, anaphora. If anaphora is a word that you're not familiar with, you can just call it repetition, but anaphora is when the first word or few words of each line at the beginning is repeated. So what's the impact of this anaphora? Well, it's about showing the vastness of the suffering and the kind of repetitive nature of the suffering. It doesn't change. It just keeps on going. We have repetition of the noun cry here. Note in this case, it is a noun, not a verb. So again, emphasizing just how much suffering there is. And again, that suffering is emphasized through the juxtaposition of man and infant. So age and experience, youth and innocence, it doesn't matter who, the crying, the suffering, the fear, the pain is there. Mind forged manacles, that's what he hears in all of his cries, in all of the voices and in all of the bands. Mind forged manacles, this is obviously a metaphor. Manacles are chains or shackles, okay, which obviously has a kind of connotation of being controlled, being imprisoned. There's quite a sinister tone here. You get this from this alliteration. Put in brackets, it's nasal. That's how you describe the sound. Those are all nasal sounds. What's the effect? It's quite menacing. It's quite sinister. It's quite low and harsh. But I want to talk about mind forged. Forged means made. So if those manacles are forged in the mines, those manacles that are keeping the people of London down, that suggests that those people have the control. If you need to bring in context, this is a perfect moment to reference how influenced he was by the French Revolution. This sounds like a call to arms. It's saying you allow yourself to be shackled, you allow yourself to have these manacles, so shake them off. Okay, moving into the third stanza, we've got how the chimney sweepers cry, every blackening church appalled. So first off, we've got another repetition of that noun cry, again reminding us of that suffering. But let's look at the colour symbolism, the blackening church. Notice that we've got an ing here, this kind of sense of it being ongoing. Now, church is associated with light, purity, so the fact that it is blackening is in contrast to that. We also have this idea, if you don't know the word synecdoche, synecdoche is when something small represents the whole. So we've got one individual church, it's actually synecdoche for religion. Now, the fact that this religion or this church appalls, okay, is to do with something contextual. Who looked after the chimney sweepers? They were all orphans. They suffered horribly, shoved up chimneys, died of awful lung diseases. They were innocent young orphans. Who looked after them? the church. So this is actually about the corruption of the church. So that's why we've got blackening church here in this metaphor. Some people say, oh, it's kind of like the soot is staining, it's corrupting. Yeah, but it's because it's on their hands. They're the ones that should be looking after. So obviously Blake was a nonconformist. This is this idea about blaming the church. In the same stanza he blames the monarchy as well. Powerful stuff. And final stanza, again, apologies for how big this quote is, but you could probably get away with just using the first and third line and putting an ellipsis in. How the youthful harlot's curse blasts the newborn infant's tear and blights with plagues the marriage hearse. Now, this is the last part of the poem. It's the last stanza, so we know it's like the worst bit. Let's start with the juxtaposition between youthful and harlots. Harlots are prostitutes. The fact that they are youthful is deeply upsetting. It's a comment on what is happening to these young women, young girls, let's be honest. Youthful connotes innocence, harlots connotes sin, corruption, etc. So this is a criticism on what is happening to these people. We've got a metaphor here, the harlot's curse. Now, some people read this stanza as meaning, oh, the harlots are cursing, and that's loud and horrible for their children. Okay, yeah, you can read it that way, but no. The curse is a metaphor for disease. Okay, so if the harlot's disease, i.e. STI, venereal diseases, is blasting the newborn infant's tears. So look at that verb, obviously connotes violence and harshness. So i.e. prostitutes are passing on their STIs to their babies, and then blights with plagues the marriage hearse. So we've got further metaphor now connoting disease because we've got the verb blights, we've got that noun plagues, so massively associated with death. But what's being blighted with plague? The marriage hearse. Check out this oxymoron, okay? Hearse is obviously the vehicle that dead bodies are carried in, and we know what a marriage is. Marriages should be associated with new life. So the fact that it's attached to death means that what he's saying is not only are these little babies ending up with STIs, but the men who are having sex with the prostitutes are then going home and blighting their marriages with disease, okay? Huge criticism of everything that is going on in London under the watchful eye of the church and the monarchy. Call to action from William Blake. Whew, that's it from me. 5 useful quotes. I hope you might have needed to pause me and reread or re-listen to a few bits if you're making your flashcards. Any questions about the quotes I've put up or any other lines from the poem, do get in touch. Drop me a note in the comments and I will get back to you. If you haven't subscribed already, do click that button because there's more of this analysis coming your way. Thanks so much for watching. Happy revising.